What goes into an open format crate for DJs in 2023? But first, what exactly is an open format crate? I figure it's best to go to ChatGPT for the definition. So an open format crate for DJs refers to a collection of music spanning a wide range of genres, eras, and styles, which means DJs are not restricted to a single genre or type of music, but instead has the flexibility to play a diverse mix of songs. It's a pretty good definition right there. My name is Aaron, and I just wrapped up my year-end mix. I want to take you through a step-by-step process of how I built my crates, and you might learn some things along the way. I'm going to take you behind the philosophy of my song selection, along with my art of mixing, some technical aspects, and I'm going to share with you some of the highlights from my mix last night that we hosted. Every holiday season, me and the team get together on Twitch and host a live event. Now, they gave me an hour last night to perform, and I spent all month thinking about what went into the set. My first thought process was familiarity is key. With 120,000 songs being dumped into Spotify every day. Did you hear that, by the way? Every day, 120,000 songs are being dumped into Spotify. I was going to go ahead and extract the hits from that madness. I was going to use data and charts to determine what was the most familiar. Now, some may argue it's going to sound pretty generic, but when I go through the process of trying to find an instrumental that's a little more banging, or possibly a remix to go underneath that familiar song, if I can take recognizable lyrics with the most cutting-edge EDM or trap or hip-hop sounds to boost it, to me that's a win-win recipe and a perfect ingredient for an open format crate. So how do I find songs that are familiar, but also the biggest hits of all time? The first thing I would do would be go online to some of my favorite charts and start looking for patterns. I'll walk you through it. Here's YouTube Charts. It's the week's most popular songs on YouTube, and it's the month of December. Right now we're getting inundated with holiday songs. Mariah Carey is back on top, but that's not what stands out to me. I'm looking at the top 10 personally, and I'm only seeing one truly danceable song. Can you spot it? Yeah, Jack Harlow, Lovin' on Me, one of the most up-tempo tracks. And I think to myself, are there any other songs on this top 10 that maybe I could boost with a redrum or a mashup or something? I'm not seeing much, but again, it changes as the months go by. Oh, and don't worry, by the way, I will give you all links to all of these charts, but the next I'm going to is BeatStats. This is the rankings based on track positions in the Beatport Top 100 charts. You can go as far back as all time, 12 months, or 3 months. Personally, I find Beatport to be a treasure trove of underground sounds. Take the YouTube charts, for example. Is there an EDM sound within this chart that you can extract and maybe lay over the familiar vocals? Can you remix Mariah Carey, for example? So in my head, I'm thinking familiar lyrics from charts like YouTube with the bubbling sounds of what's coming from the underground. Another bookmark I would recommend would be Shazam. More specifically, their charts pages. You can drill down into genre, and one of my personal favorite tricks is the ability to narrow in on your city. For example, I live in Nashville, Tennessee, and these are the biggest songs in my market. It's funny, again, I'm spotting Jack Harlow's Lovin' on Me, number 2 in my city. So I will definitely be playing that song. I've talked about this website so often in previous videos, but xmplaylist.com is quite easily one of my favorite websites to date. What this shows are the songs played in real time on SiriusXM radio, and much like BeatStats, you can narrow in on the past 60 days or even as close to 1 week. Much like tuning into the dial on SiriusXM, I'm locked into the Hip Hop Nation station. Travis Scott with I Know is number 1, followed by Turks and Caicos from Rod Wave. I'm starting to see Rich Baby Daddy pop up quite a bit. These are all fairly new songs that I'd like to start bringing into this open format set. Again, I'm trying to find the most familiar lyrics on the radio, on streaming, on YouTube, Spotify, everywhere. I'd also recommend going over to SiriusXM Hits 1. This is mostly for pop to hip-hop, rock, dance, all the biggest songs across America. I'd argue this is probably a little bit more accurate than the Billboard Hot 100. And the reason why I say that is because we've got actual radio program directors on the most powerful broadcast network. So these guys and girls take their job very seriously. and I would lean on their expertise to find what the biggest songs are according to their research. Last one real quick would be the TikTok radio channel. These are the sounds and songs that redefine pop culture. And once again, I'm looking for patterns and familiar sounds. I'm going to go back to the classics, but I'm also going to bring in new graduates. I still got a lot more goodies to share with you. If you're enjoying this, by the way, click like, hit subscribe, because I'll always give you a step-by-step breakdown of what goes into crates and playlists, not only here on our YouTube channel, but also within the Crate Hackers desktop software. And that's where I'm going to head over to next. As a matter of fact, opening up the Crate Hackers desktop software version 3.5, I'm going to head up to the search for track or artist field. I'm going to type in Jack Harlow's Lovin' on Me, because I saw that song pop up so often. Take a quick look at some of the factors next to the artist and title. Here it's going to show you the key, the BPM, but more importantly, the energy, the danceability, the mood, and an overall popularity metric. Now it's here that I'm going to be looking for the most energetic and the most danceable songs currently on the radio and on streaming today. I've done my research on the charts. It's from there. I'm going to drill down just a little further. I'm going to find these little metrics that we didn't even know existed before, like energy and danceability. If I can take this open format crate and ride like a roller coaster, I feel that adds an extra layer of emotion and overall mood, everything that goes into a perfect open format crate. Now, one final thing I'll bring up in my philosophy behind song selection is the trend adaptation. 128 BPM has exploded in popularity. I was noticing some trends as I was going through these record pools, and the editors that they hire are really going in on 128 BPM. 3-4 years ago, the predominant BPM was 74. Big tracks from Atlanta, trap house music, Post Malone, Migos, Kendrick Lamar, they all had this low tempo, and that tempo shot straight up. And we've been riding this 128 wave for so long. At some point, it's going to burst, but I'm going to capture that because this was my year-end mix. If I were to bottle up the sounds of 2023 in a little time capsule, this mix would be my definition of that. By the way, there is a full mix. I'll share the link with you so you can hear from beginning to end my set, but we're not quite finished with this video yet. I have a lot more secrets to share. Let's bring it to our next step, the art of mixing, and some of the suggestions that I would make with separating old and new. We're about to open up my DJ software so you can see the crate that I built. But the first thing I want you to notice is the old and new. This is another layer to bring into the art of this mix. The key is you never want to be too cool for school. In other words, new song after new song fatigues the audience because they can't connect. The key to a perfect open format crate is to take old and blend it with new, back and forth. This is what radio programmers have done with FM top 40 stations for the past 15 years. The separation of female and male vocals. If you listen to a really well-programmed radio station, we're not leaning in one direction or the other for too long. There's equal representation. It's keeping everything distinct. If you're able to take female vocals paired evenly with male vocals and interchange them often, it creates for an extraordinarily dynamic mix. See, the key is all about variety, and this is the first thing I want you to see when we open up my crates. Let's go. All right, we're looking at the Rekordbox DJ software. To the right, you can see the artist and title of every song that I've played. For the most part, I got a few more down here at the bottom, but I want to take it step by step and line by line, showing you some of those programming philosophies I was talking about earlier. And it's a real shame that we can't play music on YouTube, which is why I want to encourage you to listen to the mix on Mixcloud. The link is in the comments. We start off with Edge of 17 with Stevie Nicks. This is the Collini Big Room mashup. Personally, I loved it so much because it takes that Edge of 17 guitar riff with the piano of Robert Miles' Children. It was a perfect mood setter. By the wavelengths, you can see it's really dreamy in the beginning, and these expanded wavelengths indicate a very dark tech house intro, setting the stage. We're going to bump up 25 years or so to the Black Eyed Peas. Keeping with the energetic 128 sounds, I decided to bump up the Let's Get It Started 5 Hours remix to match the tempo. And then I'm moving into the most current song today. This is Joel Corry with Rita Ora. Now, this is where the lines really start to blur. 2023 was a monumental year for the remix and the mashup. Never before in the history of time has actual mashups, quote unquote bootlegs, that sound of unique instrumentals paired with very familiar lyrics, come together as one on radio charts. The biggest song over the past year? I'm Good. Originally Eiffel 65's Blue, now remade by David Guetta, who's also well known for taking songs like Mary J. Blige, Family Affair, and putting a tech house vibe to it. And that is all the rage now. Again, 128, familiar lyrics. This is what encapsulated 2023, and it's also what I wanted to convey in this crate. So Joel Corey took the singing from Chance the Rapper's All Night, a big rap song back in the 2010s, and laid an energetic vibe that kept the tempo moving. Shout out to the UK. Central C and Dave are the biggest songs on their charts. Sprinter. But it also had James Hype's remix of a classic Justin Timberlake track. Again, I wish I could go and play this for you now to preview, but head over to Mixcloud. You're going to hear layers on top of layers. You can never go wrong with Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion. Now, if you're looking at the BPM, this is where I start to dive back into trap music. Trap was so predominant 5 years ago. It was that BPM where you could double time it. Sometimes it was 72, one time it would be 144, depending on how you mixed it. But it caused for an either hyper energetic or super laid back vibe. And rappers and producers really kept that tempo slow, a little too slow for some of us. We ended up having to move on from the trap phase, but I still find a lot of energy in some of that production. I don't want to use the D word, but dubstep would be something I think that wakes people up from an otherwise monotonous. I would say that you don't want to do 128 consistently all night long. I think we get locked into that tempo far too often, and it's time to shake things up a little bit. So I simply pulled out some of the best, most recently produced trap edits I could find. I found a Falcons and XNY Wolf remix of Rich Baby Daddy. If you noticed on the hip-hop channel on SiriusXM, Drake is crushing it with Sexy Red on this song right now. Old versus new, you've got Genuine following Drake. I don't want to play too many new songs back to back. Genuine also had a trap beat as well, but I wanted to get out of that quickly. Galantis Runaway, where we had a real quiet beginning and got back up into the 130 BPM by using a dreamy intro to get me out of that tempo lock. Zooming in further, you've got this slow build up, and I start to lose it towards the end because this goes so hard. Keeps that murderous edge going. There was a producer by the name of Audion, one of my all-time favorite EDM artists, and he once said in an interview, "First I like to pet my audience and then punch them in the face." And I've always subscribed to that philosophy. You keep them on their toes. Never let them see what comes next. You got at least 2 minutes of another dream sequence with the Gianna Luca Rupito remix of Pitbull and Neo's Give Me Everything. Kesha singing over levels brings that song to a whole new level. Shout out to DJ Scooter, who put together a Dreams and Nightmares Better Off Alone mashup. Keeping it going with Tech House. That's so huge in 2023. And I hope you're noticing the male and female separation and old and new interspersed with one another. Never staying in one pocket for too long is key to any playlist. A couple more notable transitions that I had were Makeba, the Spooky Bro edit. It goes straight into Rammstein's Du Hast. Who would have thought? You've got Jack Harlow, biggest song right now, Lovin' on Me. But this is where we took it and mashed it up with Akon's Belly Dancer, which came back huge thanks to Iman Beck and his latest remix. It's hard to keep up, I realize, because 2023 artists were working with other artists, taking their old catalog and giving it a refresh, that you see the lines blurring all throughout this crate. And finally, I got emotional with the final few songs here. Empire of the Sun, Titanium, some One Republic, this incredible remix of Zedd and Porter Robinson. And then finally, Avicii, Wake Me Up, paired with Don't You Worry Child from Swedish House Mafia. And it's better to hear it than try to describe it, but maybe now you're starting to get an understanding of how my head works with putting together a set, more notably an open format 2023 crate. One final ingredient I brought to this particular mix was noting how movie trailers were taking thunderous new approaches to classic songs. If you watch any Marvel or DC movie trailer, you're going to hear all these amazing songs that we grew up with, but they're taking an orchestra approach to it with big drums and explosions. I wanted to capture that all throughout the mix. Simply know in your head that I went with the approach of what it would be like to be back in theaters again with the THX surround sound around you, which I hope you catch. Let's talk about more technical details here. I worked with the Pioneer DJ Opus Quad. It had 4 decks, allowing me a chance to layer a little easier. One of my personal favorite features is the Beat Effects pad built in. I've got an actual video that you can watch of my studios so you can take a tour. Some of the challenges I was dealing with throughout the mix included trying to time it out right. I wanted to get as close to an hour as possible. And if we head back into my screen here, you'll see that when you look at the term cut, that usually indicates that I had to take a song and quite literally cut the time down. As an example, the Black Eyed Peas track that I worked with was only 1 minute and 13 seconds long. Sometimes I was used to the longer version, and I had to, for time's sake, work with a shorter edit. And if anything, it was more of an annoyance of having to download a shorter version of it when I should have done that in the first place. Another challenge I was dealing with was Dropbox. I had some folders synced up in the cloud versus on my desktop. And when I was transferring over from my desktop, I lost some particular files, like 14 out of 30 of them, causing me to start over again. That was annoying. I would always recommend, if you're building your playlists, have one central source for your music and don't have it scattered everywhere. This time I just didn't take my own advice. So that would be it. Overall, I had a blast putting this together. I really want to challenge myself and you to really think about putting together a well-structured mix at least once a month. If you're out there trying to get gigs, keeping your name on top, brand awareness, you need to be thinking about your latest mix. And I hope some of my advice is going to be able to help make your perfect open format crate. If you had a great time, please click like, click subscribe. I have a ton of other videos that do breakdowns just like this. Click subscribe, and happy hacking.